All right, everybody, welcome. I'm really excited to have Kyle and Samantha on tonight, and they're from Free Range Farm School out of California. Is that right?
That is, you got it.
Perfect. Okay, and so a lot of the other interviews that we've had are mostly just kind of focused just on preschool or just the first couple grades. Something that I love a lot with Kyle and Samantha is I feel like, at least this is what I'm getting from their website, their vision is huge. And it just seems like they are just trying to make a huge community impact, which is just fantastic. So I'd love to take the next, 30 to 40 minutes and just really dive in onto their vision because I think it's exciting and something that I'm excited to share with everybody. So, Kyle and Samantha, if you guys wouldn't mind maybe just starting out with wherever you'd like, whether your own origin stories or the origin story of your program or how it all came together. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, when I look at us, I feel like we're just two cogs in this machine, and really it's the program we want to shine the most light on. Um, and so Free Range Farm School for us stemmed it from just the need for a program. My wife has homeschooled our children since the day they entered school age. And we wanted to get our kids linked into a program that was like our lifestyle. We're in agriculture, so it just seemed like an appropriate fit that we would look at one of the big ag programs to build that community around. And
Sure.
in our region specifically, when we went to sign them up, we found that a lot of it had become politicized, and it didn't seem like it was for kids. And so with that in mind, um, we kind of took this step and this thought process of like, I guess one day we'll make our own program. We'll kind of figure out how to do it. And that was solidified when my wife was driving home one day in the evening. There's a point where you can see our whole community from this hill as you drive into where we live. And when she was there, she just heard God speak to her and say, "You need to make this program, and you need to do it now." And from there, we talked briefly that it'd be fun to have a couple families hang out with us once a week. Um, and have this program. And so we put it out there online. She posted on Instagram and said, if anyone wants to sign up, let me know. And when we woke up the next morning, there was about 75 families that were interested in this program.
It's incredible.
So suddenly it became a lot more than our backyard. And so we reached out to, thankfully, my in-laws had a big empty barn they weren't using. And we asked them, hey, would you mind us bringing over a couple families to hang out there? They said, sure, not a problem.
Just a couple.
Yeah. And so, God bless the program. And last year was our first year, and we had about 100 students in the program. And this year, we're finished up our first semester. We're at over 240 kids and actively coming to this program. We went from one night a week to two nights. And you're right, it's not just reduced to a small age chunk. Uh, it's really, if you're a kid and you want to learn about agriculture, where your food comes from, and really what we focus a lot on is skills that are being lost to time, stuff that our grandparents did not for fun or to stay good at it. They did it to survive.
Sure.
Where now, here we are a couple generations later. If our kids don't start learning these skills, they're going to lose them entirely. And so that means, from preschool age to our high schoolers, they're in the program learning, and we're adjusting it based on their age level. But we really expect the end goal for each age group to learn that skill.
Yeah. So I'm really glad. I usually let my guests kind of open up the spiritual door before I jump into it as well. That's a huge part of who I am, of why I do things and things like that. So I would love to interject that, as naturally, but as much as you'd like in this conversation. So Samantha, maybe take us through that a little bit. I mean, for a lot of people, that may seem strange of like direct revelation into our daily lives, but maybe what was that like, and how did that translate into confidence and actually doing something about it?
Um, yeah, it was interesting because during the shutdown and everything that happened, we had a lot of things closed down, and we had a lot of families reach out to just come up and hang out with the animals because even our beaches were closed here in California. So nobody had anything to do. And so we opened up farm tours and things like that. And so we kind of organically created this community of people that just wanted to have their kids outdoors, and people were homeschooling whether they wanted to or not.
Sure.
And for me, that was my heart all along to homeschool. and loving Charlotte Mason. Like, I read all of her books, and I really appreciate like how her method of teaching. And so yeah, it was just a lot of prayer to see, like, each year really, because as your kids get older, you have to change the way that you teach, and you're now, from teaching one kid, you're now teaching 4 kids. It's just you kind of have to just, yeah, for me, I'm praying through each year. And we really developed a close knit group. And it really was 2 other moms and myself, and we met it was like 3 days a week. It was like a co-op.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We called ourselves Free Range Farm School, and that was like our like little group, our co-op.
Yeah.
But then we realized, like, this is a lot. Like, you kind of lose a little bit of flexibility when you're trying to do every single subject together. So yeah, I was in prayer for a long time. And then about a year later, like Kyle said, I was just driving, and it just was very clear, this vision of us gathering together each week and to teach kids these skills about, because we are most importantly wanting them to learn life skills.
Yeah.
But we're also teaching them God's word. And it kind of would create an avenue to do that, because a lot of people are interested in learning about farming and agriculture. But we also are teaching them about the gospel too. So
Yeah. Is there a pushback or conflict? Like, are people interested, and then like, well, if you're including that, maybe not. I don't know. What experience did you have with that?
I don't think we've had any pushback from families. Like, we've definitely had families from a lot of walks of life
Sure.
in our program. And they don't push back. The only real pushback we get is a lot of families want to use their like charter school funds. And
Yeah.
and the charter schools have been open with us. They're like, hey, if you're willing to take the, any type of religious thing, any Christianity out of the program and off your website, we'll approve you tomorrow.
Interesting.
And so we were like, no, like that's part of our program. Like, we can't, like, that defeats it.
It might be part of who you are. So I think that it's pretty hard to take that out.
Yeah, it's like it's not just a thing we turned on for the program.
Sure.
Like, that's us.
Sure.
And seeing the kids in it, it's awesome. It's, if we can get the kids to know Jesus and they get to know this program, it's not a drop-off program thing. That's the other part.
Define what that means.
So their parents aren't bringing their kids here to drop them off for 2-3 hours to learn a skill and leave. We ask that we sort of make them, but the parents have to stay. The other big win is there's no cell service at the barn. So we're suddenly thrust into this vacuum. And so the parents are there hearing the gospel shared, they're in the classroom learning with their kids. And so
no cell phones.
There's no cell phones. I mean, they're taking, like, the great part is it's like suddenly you're transported back to the true camera age where all it does is take pictures. Yeah. And so you have these parents that are,
oh man,
that are like forced to actively engage in their children's education. Which just, I don't know if I'll say it this much. I didn't plan that. I don't know. You have that planned?
No, not necessarily, but I do think that it's for people that don't go to church, it's a little bit less intimidating because we're in a barn.
Mhm.
And so it's not as like scary, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we've had people say like they love it. They love like hearing about it, like even if they don't normally attend church. So I think overall it's been really a good experience.
Yeah.
We haven't had any pushback.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think if I could create something, I would love to block out cell service. Like that's amazing that naturally happened. And for me, I don't know how you guys are feeling about devices. Maybe talk about that in your own home. Devices, like where are you guys at? This is off topic, but technology. Where are you guys at with that with your kids?
It's really not off topic because it really is kind of why we called it like free range farm school. It really is because so many people are glued to their devices, and it's like a prison. Kind of like people are stuck in their homes and they're glued to their computers and tablets and things. And they're caged. And so when you finally let them out into the real world and let them be around other people and communicate in real life and learning things like eye contact and things.
Yeah.
And even though we're like a farm school, like we're still teaching them these principles. So yeah, I feel like with devices for our own family, they can be useful. I don't think that there is a time and a place for them, but
A great example is our son, our youngest son. He had an accident, and so he got put into music therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So on a tablet is like a little sound mixing thing, and his favorite thing is to build like music beats. It's very like it's a really good thing for him, and he's building like that's very helpful to him, and he gets timing down. Way more musical skill than I'll ever imagine having. But like that's a really good thing. It's a positive, it's a creative, but without parents interceding and being like, okay, like it was a rainy day, we couldn't go outside, beyond the 5-10 minutes you had fun before you're cold. Like you have to manage that, and it can get very carried away very quickly. And like Sam said, you can build your own prison around these devices.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the mindset that we're trying to form with our family is being a producer versus being a consumer. And so like when and whether it's producing a skill in yourself, like you were talking about just barely, I think it's a little bit hard, but I think as soon as you cross that line of being a consumer versus a producer, I think that's what we're trying to move into as a family. It's really hard to translate that into like practical things from day to day, but I think that's what we're trying to wrap our heads around. And like, okay, those seem like good principles. Are we consuming or are we producing in this moment with our technology?
But there is a time, like even for consuming, like a lot of people like with homesteading and farming, like they didn't learn it from the first generation. Some people are learning from YouTube.
Yeah. So maybe productive versus.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very true.
Yes. So I think there is a time for it for our family. We obviously put limits on it, but they don't even want to be on it because they're outside playing. If they had the choice between either, and that goes for any other kid that's been at our house, like if they could choose between like going and watching TV and going fishing, like they're gonna go fishing.
Yeah. Oh, I think you touch on a lot of really great things. We've brought a tablet camping once, and it was more for like the ride up or something like that. But it was available, but that's not what they wanted to do. They had these other things that and I think that's a big part of what we as parents are struggling with, especially in more suburban areas that we've kind of run out of outside. And so we've shift to a mode of entertaining and shift to a mode of like occupying our kids, which as I'm really thinking, with my wife and studying some of these things, like that's not really how families were raised, that the parent entertains all the time. That's not really how it, has always been in the past. So those are great points. But I don't have a lot of, statistics, but I really believe that technology is a big, big issue in the generations growing up. And I love that you guys are at least having that experience for families to at least experience the difference.
Right. Yeah. And we always say too, like, because we don't have the cell service for the parents to even be working. But even that drive, like to get to where we are, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's like a 20-30 minute drive to get down to like town.
Sure.
And it creates conversation. I think a lot of people have said, because we even have people coming from San Diego, which is like 2 hours away, and with traffic, like more. So these families are spending quality time actually communicating, because you get distracted. Like when you have your phone and you're scrolling, it's hard to have conversations. But when you're kind of stuck in a car with no cell service,
sure.
So
to be clear, you guys aren't really, and like I said, there's a big contrast between what you guys are doing and who I've typically interviewed. You guys aren't like replacing a preschool per se. At least definitely not a traditional drop off like you mentioned. It feels more like family building. That's kind of feels like that's where you guys are headed.
Yeah, I don't want to say that's outside of where this program grows to. Like I think there's a lot more this program has in its future. Especially the way we've established it. Like we established it as a nonprofit versus LLC, just with the inherent thing that it would outlive us and be a program that's grows.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, really the way it's structured right now is more of an quote unquote after school or an enrichment
Right.
type activity for kids.
For our main program, yes.
Mhm.
But we do have individual classes, like we call them workshops. And so we have like a preschool where we meet. Right now we're meeting monthly and we do different topics. So that is just like a once a month thing, but it is so needed. Like I feel like the preschool, compared to all the other ages, just the data shows that preschool is where people are the most interested because they're trying to figure out like, what are we going to do? And so I think that's the highest interest in our area is that age. And so we do have quite a few. I think we have like probably 50 preschoolers between our 2 evening classes.
Wow.
And we also have like a packed out Monday class during the day. So yeah,
It's not drop off. Parents are there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we have like teachers, so they go into their age range and we name them like the preschoolers are bees, and then the chickens is the next age, and then we have sheep and cows, and so kind of like they're all in their different groups.
Sure.
So the parents are able to like follow along and go through all the different stations that we do, but some of them bring a book and like they sit there. Yeah. And so it just depends on the parent. Like there's more like engaging families, and then there's parents that just kind of watch from afar.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
And it varies too, because the other thing we're starting to notice, that at least I'm noticing when I'm doing my walk arounds, is like the families too are building connections with each other. Like I think there was like that week at orientation, everyone's kind of like, and now you see them huddled up around the heaters and they're drinking coffee and talking with each other. It's really, everyone's unique, but it's really neat to see this community continue to develop outside of just what the intended purpose was.
Yeah.
So it's not so much open enrollment. You guys kind of have like a start and stop programming, or how does that work?
We do have, it's open enrollment. We have like a wait list right now because of our numbers per group. That's kind of where we have to cut it out. We're at like 240 to 250 is what we like legally can have like per
classroom
group leader. Yeah, our classroom. Okay. So we do have a ongoing wait list.
You'll notice my wife a lot air quotes around the legally. I'm the risk manager here, so I'm always like, we can't do any more. And then I get an email that like 3 more kids are enrolled. I'm like, I mean, they're in different classes, but that's what this program needed. Like, I mean, even from like the point of like how our marriage is formed, like she's definitely the like jump first, figure out later, and I'm the like trying to figure out as we're going, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, she pushes the 240 to 250 number all the time, which is awesome because every kid needs to be in the program that wants to be.
Yeah. So your constraints are instructors.
Correct. Yeah. Just for the insurance, it's not like as you get more kids, the more liability. And so, yeah, that was more like his side of trying to make sure everything is official, because I'm the wild and free mom and I'm like, let's go on a nature hike, and we just go. That's a great part of it too, by the way. But because on Fridays we do like our nature days, and so it really is. It's not just a one day a week. We kind of see each other throughout the whole week, and it is more of a hands-on, like immersive program. And we teach lessons, so it's not like we're just going on a hike. I think it's important to like actually focus on either the history of the location. We have a ton of history up here for like different cattle roaming and things like that. Or a science lesson.
Yeah, like for as wild as like our program is being free range, we still give out homework, for example, which is like a weird thing. But our homework is not a requirement of being in the program. Like you're not being graded on it. We're not forcing it on you, but it takes the lessons you learned in that class and kind of develops it. And I love the thought process of there's lots of ways kids learn. Like I definitely say both of us thrived on like doing it ourselves, but there's also kids that thrive off repetition. And so really diving into a subject. But then also for the families, a lot of times they're turning in our homework as their extracurricular activity or their science homework or their history homework for their charter school they may be in. So that's like a benefit. But we incentivize the kids to do it, saying if you finish your entire homework binder for the year, you get a custom belt buckle that
Cool.
we don't sell it. You can't buy it. You can't donate money to the program and get one. The only way you can get it is actually you could be a director of the program because we had to buy those samples.
Yeah.
Or you finish your homework binder and then you get to earn it. And like, we wear buckles every week and the kids are like, I already finished this month's homework. And so it
Do you have one around there that you could show us?
Yeah. I have to take it off. So I mean,
Okay.
but, so there's the free range farm school.
Oh, faith, family, freedom.
Yep. And
You guys are my people. Really, really are.
Yeah. It's super cool.
And these kids are cool. Like it's so fun to be around them because they want to, like, there's a few of them, they have like their little notepads and they're like writing down like, how do you spell pasteurization and homogenized milk? Like they're trying to write down every little thing. And so it's so fun.
Okay. So you've got, I guess maybe walk us through, I have like 4 different questions I'm ask right now. Walk us through maybe like the favorite parts of your program, or maybe just like a day. Like what does that look like, experience? Like what are people seeing and smelling, in that day?
So I think it's important we start with how actually the program gets started, right? Like, so like our first church we were deeply involved with, I got, bringing faith into this again. I was saved in my teens and as an adult, and the church we were really involved with, we set up every Sunday. We were temporary in a church, in a high school gym.
Mm-hmm.
And so every Sunday we had to set up the chairs and the sound equipment. So actually a lot of our ministry starts there. So at farm school, usually I have 1 to 2 interns, summer interns that are like high school teen students that are working with me. And so they're helping me set up the chairs, making sure the barn's clean and ready for our lessons. And then about 4:00, our volunteers start to come in. And at 4:30, we break bread and eat together. So every family, every week, Wednesdays and Thursdays, different groups, the volunteers, those who are serving, bring food together. And we just, all the kids, all the adults have dinner together, we eat. And then we have our volunteer meeting at 5:15 and have our volunteer meeting. So we go over our stations, if maybe a volunteer family can't make it, who's filling in for them. And then at 6:00, the kids, really about 5:30 or so, the kids start showing up. 5:45. 6:01. Some are skidding into the parking lot a little late. But our evening, you're met in the barn. It's a beautiful space. It really is. And it's just a blessing to us. It's a 16 stall barn. And we have old school pews set up on one end and a small plywood stage. And at 6:00, worship starts. So we have one of our volunteer families. I got to shout out Joe. He's awesome. Sometimes Cameron's there with him, and they lead worship. So we sing 1 to 2 songs, the same 1 to 2 songs every month that are fitting of our Bible theme.
Sure.
And these kids sing their heart out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then they sing. If it's the first of the month, Sam shouts out everyone's birthdays, and they all get to wear their birthday stickers for the month, just so they're recognized for it. Then we'll do our pledge prayer. We'll go over kind of the week's announcements, like our nature day, what that's going to look like. We do fun things like go to air museums, have a maker's market. The kids get to make stuff and sell.
Cool.
They keep all the proceeds. It's them learning budgeting, costs, all that kind of fun stuff. And then we get right into rotations about 6:15. So they'll either go to Bible or one of our 3 stations. And there it's based on the topic for the month. So like we could look at October was survival. So the kids, one night they're going to break into, we had one of the family firefighters brought up their PPE, all their gear to show the kids, and a bunch of, stickers and fire safety brochures. Then they rotated to my station, which was fire extinguishers.
Mm-hmm.
So everything about, the types of fire extinguishers, water, dry chemical, foam, types of fires. And then we sent these kids from preschool to teenagers outside to the last station, and there they get a stone, a flint and steel, and get to try and make a fire.
Nice.
And then they have to put it out.
Yeah.
So, that's just one night. It's 20-minute stations. We're rotating about 30 kids through a class at a time, and it's hands-on. They're getting to do it. Everything from that. And we talked about the parents being there. That's like especially on the flint and steel, they're like, dads are like, oh, I got this. And they're over there trying to start it and they're frustrated.
That's not easy.
Exactly.
It was hilarious.
Yeah. So it definitely, and that's just the night. And then from there, the families will bring snacks for the kiddos to get. We never really ask for teardown volunteers, but there's always, 5 to 10 families hanging out afterwards, sweeping up, any trash,
Sure.
Cleaning up stuff, making sure the trash gets taken out. It's just awesome. And that's the natural part of it that my structure and officialness never wants to get involved in the way of, because the natural development is going to show.
Yeah. No, and I think that's I think where we've kind of come too far as a society of just liability and liability and liability and liability. And that's how we end up with kind of where we are traditionally. I hate saying traditional schooling because it's not traditional schooling, but you know what I mean? Like, I think that's how we ended up with where we are is going way too far that way. It's great you've got that compass, and it's great you've got Samantha next to you to keep you grounded.
She scares me away from it all the time. I'm like, we're building how many, because we built over, basically between the 2 nights, 100 small campfires.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, I think I have a burn permit big enough for this. And she's like, it'd be fine.
With the children.
Yeah, one of our kids' dads, a fire investigator and basically the fire police. So if someone starts a fire, he's there to write the ticket, and he's over there helping his daughter start the fire. I'm like, we've got to be
all right. Yep. So what is the most like typical academic stuff you guys actually do?
I don't think anything we do is very typical.
Good for you.
Yeah. Because it really depends. Like next month we'll be teaching about ruminant animals, and so they'll see like a hands-on, like they'll see the cows obviously, and we're going to be trimming their hooves and learning the anatomy of a hoof. So they will get some, like paperwork to actually physically see the inside of what a hoof looks like. But we also have access, because we raise beef. We'll be giving them eyeballs, real eyeballs to dissect. And so, yeah, I don't know. It really depends on the month.
Like we did, so this month was Makers Month because it was December. So we wanted them excited for their Makers Market. So the kids had to build a business plan, right? One of our leaders is a small business owner. And so he had the kids learn how to like put together a little business kind of like pitch sheet, so they could like, what were they going to do? What was some of the costs they knew? And so you had kids, really dive into it and make it as much as they wanted to make it. And then they had to present it to them. So like, while I would say it's a really great skill to learn, it's not a traditional thing I would see in a classroom.
Right.
But that's certainly a really great life skill to understand, revenue minus cost equals profit.
Yeah.
So that's mission critical.
Yeah. And so I guess that's where maybe some of the more typical, math and writing and stuff could come in at that point.
Right.
That's really neat. Going back to some of these other questions. Well, this is not one of these questions. What is this? Is this what you guys are supporting yourselves with wholly, or do you guys mentioned maybe some other things? You guys raise beef and stuff like that. Is talk about that.
So I have a part-time town job that I do. So one day a week I have to go in and be in person for that.
Yeah.
We do have our ranch, so we raise beef cattle. Typical farm produce. There's some dairy products that we sell that we don't talk about too loudly in public, unless you know some secrets, and then you can get those dairy products. And then no, farm school for us, we don't draw any salary off of it.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think that's our goal with the program. It's designed to better the community. So pretty much every dollar that comes in, actually every dollar that comes into farm school goes right back into it to make it better.
Wow.
You know,
Our
it's crazy.
goal is for it to be more of a ministry, kind of like we shared a while ago, to give back to our community, and to even eventually we want to have like a food pantry that these kids are growing to then be able to give to those that need it. And so we could probably make a living off of it for sure, but our goal is to give it's a ministry.
It's a ministry first and foremost. You know, if there's ever a salary to draw off, that'll mean the program's grown immensely. And I still feel like every month it's like, you know, we want to make sure it's the best it is. And I mean,
We're not charging very much.
our kids pay about $7 a week
A class, yeah.
a class.
That's
So,
amazing.
you know, you consider most of these kids do like a sport or something being hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Sure.
We wanted to make sure everyone got access, and we put it out there. If you need subsidy for the program, just your parents are there, they got to serve, right?
Yeah.
It's a work release program.
Sure.
Volunteer, contribute into the program, and we'll take care of it. Like that's what it needs is the community.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Tell me about the, I mean, you guys obviously have animals on the farm. And so I probably maybe even an argument between the two of you. Is there, you know, the liability versus the animals and the experience? Like what's that like, that dynamic?
I don't think we really argue over it because
I mean more like the risk versus the experience.
oh no, listen, anything that can turn money like feed into poop overnight is a brutal liability. Let's just first and foremost. But I grew up, so we're actually like part of our backstory is like the community we live in. I was born and raised in the house we're actually raising our kids in.
Oh, cool.
It's our family home. Sam moved down the street from me when we were in grade school. So like being around animals, livestock, like this has always been it. So like I never really, it's funny, like I'm always worried about risk until it comes like the animals. I'm like, let's get in, let's put 30 kids milking a cow in a small, this could be awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's funny on that point, we're always like just more excited for the kids to experience it.
For sure.
I think the hardest thing is that balance of like having the animal, because we are like a homestead and we're trying to make sure everybody has a job. But I went to a conference and Joel Salatin said, you can't be a Buddhist nudist. And he said, you can either be a Buddhist or you could be a nudist, but you can't be both. And he was referring to like, you can't rescue animals and also try to eat them. Like if they're not working for you, they need to go.
Mhm.
And so we struggle, I feel like, with being Buddhist nudists, and we do rescue animals at the same time as raising them for food. And so, yeah, it is a challenging thing for us. And we have animals that are our pets and that are rescue. And then we also have animals that we're raising. And yeah,
As long as our producers offset the consumers here, but at times it shifts occasionally, but it's
Definitely.
amazing to find.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. No, you guys have been so wonderful. I really appreciate your time on this. And if you guys are ever in Utah, are you guys ever in Utah?
we can be.
We can be.
If you're in California, you gotta
Anyway,
come.
you're definitely the type of people I'd love to have around the dinner table, that we'd love to have you over. Really, really grateful for your time here. All right. So jumping back into it. Tell me a little bit about, let's see. I don't know. Do you have any concerns from parents or any like things like that you have to kind of overcome, or maybe just explain more? Like what are some typical parent reactions?
I think a lot of parent reactions up front, they see the program, they get super excited. They want their kids. Like we have no bad emails or people worried about the program.
Sure.
But once they're in the program, I think they're a little surprised on how free range we are. You know, like I said, we're like, hey guys, here's a flint and steel, go start a fire.
Right.
And suddenly they're like, whoa, like, you know, like we're setting up, turning on propane heaters, and a little kid's like, Mr. Kyle, can I help you? I'm like, go for it, dude.
Yeah.
and they get to light it, but at home, maybe that's not the threshold that they are. And we really believe in doing dangerous things safely and letting them kind of experience some of this
I love
risk.
that.
So, and even then, once they're in the program, they kind of see like everyone else is doing it. So they're like, okay, it's okay. But no, like they get super excited about being in it.
Well, what are some other things that you do? Like, what other dangerous things do you do safely? I'm a big believer in this. I really am. So I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So woodworking, they built garden boxes with all the power tools you would expect. We've done the fire extinguishing with fire extinguishers. They're going to get to
work around big animals,
like in with the cows.
Yeah, we have a really large, like a livestock chute, and we let them go through that. And there's a lot of like parts and pieces to it, and they get to see the whole process of how cows get through it. And also like our hikes too. I feel like we're stretching a lot of people on our Friday morning hikes. Those are like a lot of people, they're not used to going like out in the middle of nowhere with no service. And I guess that is one complaint. Like you took us off this road and there's no service, and we got stuck in this pothole. And we're like, fun though.
So it's kind of like, here's a location, meet up Friday morning.
Yeah. We do the best to drop the pin, and it's sometimes when you got off the freeway was the last time you had cell phone service. So, and
but those are the most beautiful hikes, I feel like. So it's, and now the people, they're used to it.
They're used to it. And the kids are, the hikes are by far, outside of our lesson time, the least structured. The only rules we have is, 1 leader's in the front, 1 leader's all the way in the back, and you can be anywhere up and down the trail you want to be. Just because we know, I'm usually in the back picking up stragglers, and Sam's usually in the middle, and one of our other leaders is up in the front. But the kids are running back, like a lot of them have like the Apple Watches or something to track their steps, or maybe a little pedometer. And they've done way more than any of the adults because it's back and forth. But they're getting to see wildlife. I mean, we're coming across rattlesnakes, tarantulas, scorpions. It's just a part of being out there. And bobcats, coyotes. We go to, believe it or not, there's running water in Southern California. So we'll go to a lot of these creeks that are like this wide. The kids are the first one down in their bellies, swimming through it, catching, just catching baby fish. Amazing, right? And we didn't tell them to go do that. They just figured out how to have fun.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah. Another, I guess, like dangerous, I always say air quotes.
You're right, Kyle.
Is beekeeping. We keep bees too. And I think a lot of people are intimidated by them and afraid of bees. And so we get to teach them that they're actually not so scary. And we have this observation hive that they can see them, and they get to identify the queen, and they're like all up in front. And the parents and grandparents are like pushing the kids out of the way because they want to be able to see the structures of the hives that they've created, and you can see it through a glass window. So that's really neat. And it's a safer way to do it.
So growing up, my father raised bees, and it's kind of one of those things that like I wasn't interested in it just because it was always there, that type of thing. And now that I'm old, I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like I didn't know that no one else's dad did that. I want to do that, all that type of stuff. But I just barely learned about how, the drone bees would pick, the queen and nurture the queen. Are you guys familiar with that, with like the royal jelly?
Yes.
Would you mind telling like that whole process? I'd love to hear it from you guys, but this was the most fascinating thing to me of they just decide. Yeah.
So it's actually the worker bees that create this royal jelly, and they will pick a new queen. Once the queen has, they normally live around like 5-ish years. And when it's her time to go, or if she dies or something is going on, they will create the next queen by feeding they create this queen cell, and they will feed it a royal jelly, and that's what makes them into a queen. So it's amazing. I don't know how they do it. understand it.
Well,
But
just the fact that it would have turned out as any other
Yes,
bee if
perfect.
not for them treating it differently, or for, that special diet.
yeah, yeah, it's really incredible.
Bees are wild.
That's so cool.
And and again, it's just something that's like so foreign, right? And I mean, like a lot of the kids don't know, but they're going to make bee boxes this spring for the bee unit.
Sure.
And then they're going to get their very own nukes that they get to transfer into a nucleus hive that they transfer into these bee boxes. And then, by the time they come back to farm school, they'll be able to harvest honey. Like,
Yeah, but we'll be able to see them develop these queen cells because if they don't have a queen, that's the other thing too. When you're starting a new hive, if they don't have a queen, then they'll make one, and they'll get to see that whole process.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
yes.
I did not realize that. I thought you had to start with the queen.
Yeah, no, you could, if they don't have a queen, then they'll create one. And so
That's incredible.
once they become too big, like in the spring, when the queen is producing a lot, if there's too many bees in one hive, then they'll swarm. And then that little swarm will go and create a new queen cell. They create a new hive, and then it just continues on.
That's amazing. So we with my kids, and I have this buddy that he has kids the same age, that each year we go on this, we call it our challenge trip, and it's as primitive as possible, and it's way harder than it needs to be, all that stuff. But part of it is we think of one lesson that we want to teach our kids for that year, that if there's nothing else we taught them that year, we just want them to remember this one thing. And we have this little token that we give them that goes, with that lesson. Anyway, this year, this is what we're talking about. I had just learned this thing about the queen bee, and the lesson that we're considering teaching for this year is basically that the consequence or the results could be drastically different in your life, just depending on what you feed yourself, not just nutritionally, but what you consume, visually or spiritually. That your course could be totally different, just on what you consume. And going along with the story of, this bee got royal jelly and this one didn't, and so what are we doing each day spiritually, but then also taking care of our bodies and socially? That is that royal jelly that will turn us into, something majestic and beautiful. Anyway, that's kind of what we're flirting with this year, because I just think that's just such a powerful story. And anyway, really meant a lot to me.
I like it.
And it's kingdom minded. I'm stealing that. I want to take
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
That's so
Go
good.
for it. Yeah. It's been this is our 4th year doing it, and it's been really effective, and just really beautiful thing for our kids to go through. And as the kids kind of get old enough to start going on this, the older kids that receive the previous lessons would teach them those. They'd get out their tokens and teach the younger kids those, and then we'd add the new lesson every that year, that it's rolled into something really cool.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And that might roll into is kind of the last question. So I wanted to give you some time to think about it. If you had one concise message that could be broadcasted directly to every individual in the world, what would that message be?
Learn question.
It's so tough, but seeing kids from all walks of life coming into this program, the biggest thing that we would like to just share or have people hear is let the kids be free. I mean, it's such a simple concept.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to that point we were talking about, that it seems like you have to entertain your kids, letting them be free from devices, free from unnecessary burdens, and just letting them be kids and be outside and figuring out how to, come up with a game, not telling them play capture the flag. Just like our arena has some poles in it, and I go walking down our driveway sometimes, and the kids have turned them into a barrel course, or they turned them into chariots, jumps, dog agility courses. And they're the dogs. Like, it's not like our dogs are not doing this. They're watching them like work.
Yeah. But
letting kids be free to experience life as kids is just so valuable. Letting them experience struggle. That would be it.
Yeah. And I think just to add on to that would be like, if you just look out there, there are so many groups that are already started and developed and doing amazing things. If you're intimidated, just like get in there and try it. And if you can't find something, then create it. And it is, it takes courage, but
the community will build what the product will be. So as much as Sam and I put forth work into making Farm School what it was, the families that came and just honestly believed in us and said, we're here to help you. And those are the ones that made the program really what it is today.
Sure.
And they're going to come around, they're going to help you structure it. They're going to help you bring tables when you have no tables and suddenly have to teach all these kids a craft. They're going to come around and pool the resources together and give you the strength to keep going. That's it.
There are other options.
There's other options. And one of the things that, I would like to share to people is we started having families that do come from a long ways to our program that were like, well, like we wish we had a farm school near us.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, go to our website, just fill out the information and we'll do it. Well, I don't know how to make a website or I don't know how to get insurance. And we're like, no, we've already done that. Like
we figured out all the hard work.
You just go do the program. You get all of our curriculum. You get our insurance over you. So you're protected if, God forbid something did happen.
Sure.
But like all those things that you were afraid of, the way to check kids in, the way to, get people to sign up, the advertising, the website building, that stuff doesn't matter in the program. It's the time you're going to put into the program. So let us just throw our banner on it and do all your back end support for you. And you just make this program.
Yeah.
You don't need a 16, stall barn. It can be, we believe Farm School can be in a backyard. We do, or a church basement or, a fire station. It doesn't have to be on the farm, but what's there is then it's reaching out to people in your community. Like, hey, can we come do an event on your farm?
Yeah.
Even like we've had farriers come, horse dentists come. We have our cow hoof trimmer coming.
Mule packers, beekeepers, like those are all mobile.
Not because we're paying anything to come. We said, hey, there's like a bunch of kids that really want to learn about what you're doing. Can you help us? And they are so enamored with the idea of kids being interested in what's disappearing.
Yeah.
Because out of all of those crafts, I don't know one of them who has 100 people lined up applying for them, has too many options for replacements. Like those are all skills that are disappearing.
Right.
And so if they can get kids interested, they're going to be there and they're going to support you. So whether you're in a backyard, a suburban setting, or, like for us, a rural setting, there's someone who wants to pour in with you.
Yeah.
And so don't let the silly barriers to entries where I live keep you from doing the program.
Totally. And there's other avenues as well. Like we're doing a manners and etiquette course. And so that has really nothing to do with farming, but like the kids need to learn. So
I love you people so much.
Together. No one knows how to raise their hand and no one knows how to stand in a single file line. That was very clear to us.
Yeah.
We're like, everyone line up at the door. Huh. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I think people, you talk about people flocking to help or share a skill. If people are so much greater than we think. I mean, there are so many good people that just want to help and just need that invite, or just even to know that opportunity is there.
Yep.
Well, you obviously didn't see the interview I did last night, but her concise message was exactly the same as what you said at the very beginning, Kyle, of this was kids, just let them be. Like, we just need to be okay with kids, just letting them be kids and trusting them that they know, well, instinct will take over, that they know what they need and can grow up on their own, and that we don't need to interfere so much. We don't need to meddle so much. And, so I'm definitely catching a theme here with that message. That's true.
Agreed. I just think it's so fun to watch these kids figure themselves out. And I think that's what a lot of farm school is for them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun to see kids focus. I don't know if this is true for you guys. I've seen a theme with these other interviews and with my own kids that it seems like in regular life, in school, I'm always battling and fighting for their focus. You know, hey, we're focusing on this homework. We're focusing on this. Like we're doing, we're running errands. We need to focus, focus, focus. And it's so interesting with these natural things. I'm blown away by their focus that they can sit down and do something, with just the most amazing focus. I don't know. Is that something you guys have come across?
Absolutely.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, even the makers market we just did, the fact that they sat there for 4 hours,
9 to 1. So yeah.
Wow.
4 hours, they're sitting there and they were making sure their customers were coming, communicating. They were, mathing it all out. Like it was incredible. Like no one
Love
forced
that.
them. If I told them to do, addition problems for 4 hours, they would lose their mind.
Right.
I think it's just in a different way. It's the same subject, but it's just presented in a different way. So it's a little bit more palatable and it allows their focus to, it has purpose more than just doing a worksheet. So I think that could be why as well.
Yeah. Okay. You guys have any thoughts you want to leave us with? I felt like that was beautiful.
Me?
No, I really enjoyed just speaking with you.
Yeah.
It was really fun just to be able to talk about this and honestly to steal some ideas about a message there about the joy and that whole perspective is awesome.
Oh, I appreciate that. I would love if you could send me an email of an image of that belt buckle. Like, yes, we've got it on camera here, but I would love to, if I can make a thumbnail out of that or something, that's really cool. So definitely jealous of that. Good for you guys.
Well, again, the invitation's always open. If you're ever in California, we'd love to have you here. We got a place for you to stay. And we can fit quite a few kids here. So
that's what I hear. There is a limit, though. I hear
there is.
All right, folks. Have a good night. I really appreciate you. And we'll stay in contact. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'll follow up by, well, I don't know. If I could just get an email that image from you, that'd be wonderful. I'll follow up and let you know how that you guys can access this. In a very primitive way, I could just at least send you a link where this is hosted on, on a YouTube page that you could at least direct your, potential clients or whatever you want to do with that link. But at the very least, we could do that.
Farm school community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Have a good night. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you for doing this. This was so fun.
It was.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it.
Also, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a podcast I can go to where you guys do reveal your trail names you and your buddy came up with for everyone? Or is that still confidential?
The trail names. Did I mention it in this call?
No, I was listening to your podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. So one day, if I'm like, now I got to find it. They'll slip one day. Yeah,
no, I never did. And I'll edit this out mostly because I love you guys so much so far. That's really funny. So yeah, that probably brings it into much more perspective. So is those challenge trips? That's exactly what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my buddy is. Have you heard of Anasazi program it's a wilderness program in Arizona?
No.
Okay. So it's kind of like troubled teens and youth will go there. You're in the wilderness the entire time for like a year and a half and just therapy. And it's pretty, anyway, so he worked there. So that's where we integrated a lot of these traditions and things like that. Anyway, so that's where he got his, mine is, and, he's my buddy. So, I mean, our friendship goes back quite a ways, but he wrote up this whole meaningful thing of like being like the pillar of the family and reliable and and he just elaborated. It was really, really sweet. And then being family centered. And so like there's much more, I don't know, he assigned meaning to a lot of these parts, but just a really incredible guy that we actually will do family treks. So we'll do this for other people that they want to spend a couple months beforehand, kind of together, creating this meaningful experience, and then we'll take them out and do this hike with them. So that's kind of what this developed into.
Awesome.
So cool. I didn't get to listen to it yet. So do you have time? I want to know more about this teen program.
Yeah, so that one, so Anasazi is what that one is called. Like I said, it's kind of like, I don't like the phrase troubled youth, but that's kind of what it is. So young adults would go there and work on behavioral issues or substance abuse issues. But like I said, they're in the wilderness, primitive skills, sleeping under a tarp, filtering their water. They're
Like
just
like how long is this program? A month?
a year and a half. A year.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and it's kind of just it varies, but yeah, it's long term. And they don't come into town that whole time. Like they're just out there. And so my buddy was a nurse for them. And so but they'd have they call them trail walkers, like staff that would take them supplies. And I mean, they're just ingredients. There's no meals. It's just, here's a sack of flour, here's some oats, here's a little bit of brown sugar, here's some dried mangoes, here's some lentils. And then here's your tin cup, and you carve your own spoon. And the last time we did this with my kids, that's exactly what we did. We all had little tarps, and we wrapped up our own backpacks and made our own frames, and we had those exact same ingredients. We used the exact same stuff, and it was rough, but it was an amazing experience. But it was an experience I'll never forget. What my kids always talk about, we call it the heavenly apple. So we hiked way too far. We grossly underestimated how far we were trying to get the first day, and it was bad. Like, I've learned that we don't need to try to make these trips hard. They're just naturally hard. Like you don't need to put effort into it. And so anyways, so everyone just starving at the end of the day, and we're just all exhausted and kind of disappointed. We didn't get as far as we wanted. And anyway, we're just too tired to set up camp. So we're just laying in the dirt, and we finally get the energy you can't just unzip your pack, because you tied up this tarp to make your pack. So you finally get the energy to open up this pack, and there's just an apple on top, and we just pass around this apple, and it's the most delicious food any of us have. And my kids still talk about it today, that if you ask them what was it, what's the best thing you've ever eaten, it's that apple. And
but
anyway,
see, that's like the prime example. Like, they worked so hard for that simple bite of an apple that they probably eat every day, tasted 10 times better because they literally earned it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big part, I think, of life, and something that they've learned is everything is relative. I feel bad in our take two, we didn't talk much about the food aspect of it, but me and my wife have tried really hard, and it is crazy how infiltrated our lives are with processed food and stuff like that. I mean, everyone is throwing candy and stuff at our kids from church to school, like they're just getting it everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, but we're just learning that food is relative, and so if they're not eating that food, all of a sudden more natural food starts to actually taste better. And man, I wish we had gotten more into that, because I think that is super important for people to learn that, of course, healthy food doesn't taste good if they just had a Hershey's bar. It literally doesn't taste good. Yeah. And it's not the kid's fault. It's just relative. Your tongue is relative.
Yeah. And then what's wild is that once you get rid of that stuff and then you reintroduce it, you're like, wow, I thought this used to taste good. But then that candy bar is you can taste the chemicals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I've personally experienced that the last couple of years, which has been pretty cool.
Well, that's the important part, is it's an addiction, and the food that we're feeding, not just our kids, but kids in general, it's designed to be addictive.
Yeah.
It's overly sweet. It's not necessary. A lot of our stuff that we eat is the seasonal food. Right. You suddenly don't have that food available anymore.
Eggs, even eggs they're healthy, but our chickens stop laying in the winter. So we're rationing out our eggs right now.
Yeah.
So it's just normal.
It changes, and it's really cool. Well, hey, if we did okay on this one, maybe you'll invite us back for a second podcast.
I would, if you guys felt it was worth the time, I would love that. I really would.
We love talking about
really enjoyed this a lot. That's That's really fun that you listen to other podcasts about that.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh, I got to find out what they're about. And I was listening to it. And I was like, you guys are talking about your type 1, type 2 memories.
Type 2
And
fun, and yeah.
yeah, and I'm all for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's why I was like, yeah, we'll be okay to do the podcast.
Good. Good.
Uh,
Yeah, for me, it's just kind of I don't know. I'm just trying to figure things out and help others. Because so I live in Utah County, which is pretty populated, but it's seeming there's just so many huge barriers for, and I feel like my generation is kind of waking up to a lot of this.
Mm.
And I don't know if I'm just an echo chamber on social media, but I just feel like everyone around me is just waking up to all of this of like, our food is garbage. The way we're living is terrible. Schooling is not natural at all. Like that's just not a natural thing to have hundreds and hundreds of kids in 5 square acres. That's just not how we're designed. Technology. Um,
They're prisons.
yeah. Anyway, and I actually started my career in a youth detention center. So I mean, a kid prison. That it is
Literally.
scarily similar
Yeah.
to how school is run, like the exact same rules. But in order to have that many kids function in that small of space, you have to be that strict,
Mhm.
and it's just not natural. Anyways, I'm just trying to help not only us, me and my wife, and kids trying to overcome these barriers to live a different life, but see if we can open things up for other people too, and giving people hope that, hey, you just need a backyard, to get going on this stuff. And it's pretty
I
cool.
think it's super important too, because like even our program, I'd say 80% of our kids are homeschooled.
Mhm.
80 to maybe even 90% of our kids are homeschooled in the
Okay.
program. But that 10% that are in public school are suddenly being like, I don't know if it's the like, hey, these kids aren't that weird, or it's even being it's seeing that these kids got to do a maker's market
Yeah.
and like, wow, these kids are learning a lot. They're really smart. Like, I hate to say it's like the court of public opinion, but to some extent, I think they're
Yeah.
seeing like, wow, this is really something.
Well, and
Yeah.
it can
And
be accomplished. It's doable. It's not so scary. Because I think a lot of people feel like they can't do it.
Right. Well, and even I think the biggest argument people say is like, well, how are they going to go to college, and move on? But I feel like even, like I said, with my generation, the value of college is just crumbling.
it
That
is.
we're kind of at this point where it's like, who cares? Like right now, it's kind of those that are entrepreneurial minded, or like those are the people that actually are succeeding. Those are people's role models, becoming people's role models.
Well, and
Anyways,
I wish we brought it up in the podcast, but like we're kicking off a teen program
I saw that.
that's actually being built into my father-in-law is super passionate about it. He owned his business for um 40 years, and finding like tradespeople is impossible.
Mhm.
And so he's like, dude, if we want to do this, he's like, I want to make it like a legit trade program.
Yeah.
And then when these kids turn 18, we'll try and place them with small business owners, because we're just shooting for respectable kids. They can show up on time, know the basics. Like that's a gold mine.
Mhm.
And so like that's our desire, is to show these kids that there's an option outside of college.
Yeah.
Even if it means working with your hands or whatever, because you can make a great living and not have hundreds of $1,000s in debt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or if you want to be a surgeon, then let's make sure you're ready for college.
Right. Yeah.
It's
No,
necessary for some trades.
the trades are, I feel like less than 10 years, everyone's going to realize like, oh, like that's where the money is now,
You
and we don't have them. And anyways, I think that is going to
you
blow
know the
up.
average age of a journeyman electrician
Uh,
in LA County, which is local 11, it's 49 years old.
really.
So you talk about next 10 years, the legitimate reality is in 10 years, there won't be any tradespeople left
Yeah.
Mhm.
if we don't fix this. And like
Yeah.
programs like Micro and stuff are trying to help, but our generation did a disservice to the trades.
Yep.
We talked poorly about them, and we said you had to go to college, and this is where we sit now.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's going to be really interesting for sure. And I think that's, I think a big part of my mentality lately of where I want my career to go. Like, Kyle, I need my career to be more grounded in actual real things. Like you can't eat a podcast. Like you need real skills. And like I said, I'm not the only one waking up to that. I think that's a big part of what we're trying to do. But
It'd be neat if you could like expand it for people that are doing it, you know, like the people that have started it, like that have been growing their own food and things like that, or the different tradesmen, and ask like just talk about how we can get our youth to
yeah,
turn back to that.
Like
Yeah.
I think that would be super interesting. Even like the niche tradesmen, like the farriers,
right.
you know, the mule packers, like these trades that people don't even realize or exist.
Mm.
Like it's wild.
You
how
can
much
reach
stuff-
so many people. Like I said, the internet can be a good tool.
Yeah.
And I think podcasts are like, it's the way people listen to them all the time.
We all have
Well,
missions. You
we'll
spread the
have-
word.
That's right.
Hey, but
That's
you
right.
got to get into beekeeping. You got to carry on that camel.
I know. Well, and this may be just our excuse. Well, we've done what we can with our, like, we have a 1/4 acre, but it's in a neighborhood, and I feel bad because I grew up with space, you know, and I grew up with lots of acres around me and alfalfa fields, and I want that for my kids. And I feel like I'm in the same boat as a lot of people, you know, around me, but like we want space. It's really expensive.
Land is so
Really,
expensive.
really, really expensive. And, you know, God bless the Californians that are moving to Utah County that are just blowing up our real
So
estate.
sorry.
It's
Just
okay.
remember to remind them they're refugees, not missionaries.
I know, right?
They
Yeah.
need to act accordingly.
Yeah.
True.
And anyway, and so a lot of people, a lot of my generation, and we were lucky enough to get a house so that at least we can ride the real estate market a little bit when we did. But a lot of people weren't so lucky, and so anyways, finding creative ways to still make the lifestyle happen without I don't know, just overcoming those barriers and that type of
It's
stuff.
amazing how much you can produce on a 1/4 acre.
It's true.
We're learning that. Yep. Yeah, we put in quite a few more grow boxes, and we're doing our chicken coop right now. And like I said, I grew up with all this, but like my oldest son is almost 9 next summer, and it's like if we don't hustle, he's gonna miss this boat. You know, he's not gonna experience any of this. So
That's
anyway.
awesome.
But you guys are great. I don't think this is the last time we'll interact. I really, really appreciate your time. And you guys are wonderful people, and like I said, my kind of people. So that was a great coincidence that we got to hook up. But thank you so much.
We're honored. Thank you so much for thinking of us.
If you don't mind, are you okay if I kind of include this extra? I'll blurb out my trail name.
Oh, sure,
Other
okay.
than that, are you guys okay if I use this too?
No, totally
You
fine.
can use whatever you want.
Okay. You guys are wonderful. Have a wonderful night.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Take care.